Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Building on the ASEAN-Japan Golden Jubilee for a Shared Economic Future, reflecting views on the ASEAN-Japan Economic Co-Creation Vision. After listening to a great discussion this morning, we are now moving on to our second panel titled Supporting Energy Transition and a Greener Global Value Chain. Energy security is undeniably important for the region, and it is a core interest of ASEAN. Several initiatives have been launched in ASEAN in 2022. However, economic challenges and geopolitical conflicts are threatening the energy security goal in the region. Moderating this panel will be Novia, a researcher in economics and climate trade at CSIS Indonesia. Before we commence, may I remind our audience that we'll have a question and answer session at the end of the session. For audience present at the venue, please raise your hand and the moderator will invite you to deliver your question. I kindly suggest to keep your questions short and straightforward. Do not forget to inform us of your name, affiliation, and the speaker whom you'd like to address your question to. Without further ado, we would like to invite Novia to the stage. The floor is yours.
Good day to all of you. Thank you for staying with us and be energetic after the delicious lunch that we just had. First of all, I think I would like to invite all speakers to come up on stage to stay with me. Dr. Jun Arima, Dr. Mirza, Sadaqat, Dr. Kiki Verico. And also please give a warm welcome and applause to Dr. Saowaruj Rattanakhamfu, who is joining us online from Thailand. Please be seated. Following up on the insightful luncheon's talk before, I think this is a perfect time to follow up on more detailed discussions about supporting energy transition and greener global value chain. I think this will be an interesting one to explore deeper the challenges and the opportunities presented by the transition towards sustainable energy systems and green global value chain, as well as the role of ASEAN and Japan in supporting this transition. Allow me to introduce our esteemed panel of speakers. Sitting next to me is Dr. Jun Arima. He is a senior policy fellow at ERIA. We also have Dr. Mirza Sadaqat Huda, a research fellow at ISEAS-Yusof Ishak Institute. We also have online with us Dr. Saowaruj Rattanakhamfu. She is a senior research fellow at Thai Development Research Institute, or TDRI. And last but not least, sitting left to me is Dr. Kiki Verico, who is the Deputy Director at Institute for Economic and Social Research, Faculty of Economics and Business, University of Indonesia. I think we have been allocated an hour and 15 minutes for this discussion. And each speaker will have around 7 minutes to share their general insights about transition and also green value chain in this region. So without further ado, I think to start our discussion, I would like to invite Dr. Jun Arima to share his insights.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. And could you please put my slides on the screen? Again, good afternoon, everybody. And it is a great honor for me to be engaged in this very much exciting discussion. And next one, please. And our organization ERIA is a research think tank for aiming at economic integration in the region. And energy is one of the key pillars for our research subject. And not surprisingly, the carbon neutrality is one of our major topics nowadays. And with that in mind, we have developed a cost-optimal deployment of energy technologies for achieving 2060 carbon neutrality in the ASEAN region as a whole. And this is the CO2 emissions in each sector. And on the left side, baseline, that is the reference scenario. And in the center, carbon neutrality 2050, 2060 scenarios. And comparing these two scenarios, as you can see, CO2 emissions in every sector is much, much lower compared with baseline. And you see bigger contribution of so-called negative emissions coming from LULUCF and also DAX and so on. And also electricity, we're aiming at BECCS, which will achieve negative emissions. Next one, please. And then this is a power generation mix in the ASEAN region in 2060. And again, comparing baseline and carbon neutrality scenarios, you will see much higher share of renewables, such as solar PV or say offshore, onshore wind, and hydro, of course, and geothermal, as presented by my previous speaker in Indonesia. But I'd like to also draw your attention that renewable does not provide 100% of the power generation even in 2060. On the contrary, the role of hydrogen and ammonia is very high. And also CCUS will play a very much integral role. Next one, please. And also, I'd like to draw your attention that in the short and midterm, efficient gas-fired power plants will curb CO2 emissions from fossil fuel power generation. And this is particularly important for the ASEAN region because they have very much high share of coal power generation in their power generation mix. So switching from coal to natural gas is very important. And in the longer term, of course, CCUS and also co-firing with ammonia for coal and co-firing with hydrogen for natural gas, and eventually 100% ammonia and hydrogen will play a vital role, as you can see in the carbon neutrality 2050-60 scenarios. Next one, please. So with that in mind, what concerns me now is the LNG price is becoming more and more expensive because of the harsh competition over a limited amount of LNG cargo between the Asian region and the European region. And green line shows that the LNG supply-demand balance without considering the impact of Ukraine war. And because of the the nature of cleaner fossil fuels, LNG demand will anyway will have become very much tight towards 2025. And after that, with initiation of the new projects, then supply-demand balance will become a bit loose. Red line, that is the case where European region will switch from pipeline natural gas from Russia to LNG. Then LNG supply-demand balance will become very tight. So that will lead to higher LNG prices. And what concerns me is that because of that high LNG price, the fuel switching from coal to LNG could be delayed, much delayed than anticipated. So that will mean coal-fired power could stay longer than expected in the Asian region. So that is why, as pointed out by Mr. Kobayashi in the previous session, that new gas investment is crucial for carbon globally, in particular for Asian region. Next one, please. Sorry, please go to the next slide. Sorry. And this is, the allocation of the vintage of the coal-fired power plants in various regions. As you can see, in India and also Southeast Asia, out of the total coal-fired power plants, the coal-fired power plants under 10 years vintage is very much high, 62% for India and 58% for Southeast Asia. And it is not surprising that in this region, energy demand and the power demand is increasing rapidly, and coal is available very much abundantly in this region. So not surprisingly, there has been a series of new installation of the coal-fired power plants. So under that situation, it is not pragmatic to assume that these young coal-fired power plants can be retired or can be obliged to be retired much shorter than its lifetime. So what we have to consider is how to reduce carbon footprint with still existing coal-fired power plants, or more broadly, fossil fuel power plants. Next one, please. So with that in mind, I think, as again pointed out Mr. Kobayashi, the ammonia could play a very much important role because if the co-firing with ammonia could be up to 50%, then its carbon footprint could be as equivalent to the gas-fired power plants. So, and co-firing of ammonia can be an effective option for decarbonizing the existing coal power plants. Next one, please. And so all of these suggest that, we need to consider some sort of transition technologies. Ultimately, definitely, we need to aim at the wide penetration of green technologies, namely zero emission technologies. But before going to complete green energy structure, we need to go through a stepwise approach. That is, first, achieve early and partial and deep decarbonization generation in a phased manner. And financial institutions, the business communities, and the policymakers need to know which technologies could be considered for financial arrangement in order to offer business opportunities during the decarbonization process. And green technologies are attracting the attention from all over the world. So it is very much clear that what are the green technologies, but transition technologies are still, there is still fluid situation. So we need to ensure the necessary proper finance could be provided for financing these transition technologies. Next one, please. With that in mind, the area we have done some sort of the indicative list of transition technologies, including CCGT, waste-to-energy power plant, or biomass co-firing, low-carbon ammonia, or low-carbon hydrogen, and CCUS, and so on. So these lists could be very much useful for financial institutions to consider helping the low-carbon future for Asian region. Next one, please. And what I have explained is very much in line with the vision of initiatives such as Asia Generation Community or Asia Energy Transition Initiatives. So ERIA, my organization, is collaborating with Japanese government through such activities as the decarbonization roadmap for individual countries such as Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and Vietnam, and expansion of transition technology list, and facilitating finance for transition technologies. And we are also an active member of the ASEC, and we attended first ASEC ministerial meeting, and we strongly agree with the funding principle of ASEC, that is the affordable and accessible and the comprehensive energy transition, and also respect of the different national circumstances in the region. The final slide, please. I do not repeat all the points, but what I'd like to say, highlight here is availability, accessibility, and affordability of energy supply is a most fundamental requirement for the ASEAN countries. And I think the ASEAN region should advocate the necessity of stepwise and pragmatic energy transition and underpinning finance. And not only here in Indonesia or ASEAN region, but in more broader international setups such as COP. Because, I have been attending COP more than 15 times in the past. And what I have witnessed nowadays is growing disconnect between the narrative in COP and energy reality in this region. So Asian countries should very clearly explain that what are their energy transition challenges, and the energy transition pathway between developed and developing countries, and even among developing countries. So that kind of messaging would be very much important. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Dr. Arima. Very insightful that we really need to have this transition technology going in the region. So coming up next to our second speaker, Dr. Huda, please, the time is yours.
have my PowerPoint presentation up on the screen, please?
Yeah, I think this is the right one.
So my presentation is on Japan-ASEAN cooperation on critical mineral supply chains. And this presentation is related to some research that ISEAS is undertaking on critical minerals and energy transition as part of the climate change. Can we go to the next slide, please? So critical minerals has been in the news industry for quite a while. And basically, critical minerals are not universally defined, but they generally have three characteristics. So firstly, critical minerals are an essential input to the development of green technologies. Secondly, there are supply constraints. And lastly, critical minerals do not have current substitutes. And so, especially minerals like copper, cobalt, rare earths are expected to go up in demand exponentially because of energy transition. And in terms of vehicles, the demand for critical minerals will increase by as much as 30 times of what the demand is today by 2040. And for clean energy generation, such as solar PV, the demand will increase 3 times as much as what it is today. And currently, only a few countries extraction of minerals, such as copper, nickel, cobalt. And China actually dominates the extraction of around 5 minerals. This, of course, has led to some geopolitical concerns regarding the sustainability and security of the supply chain of critical minerals. Next slide, please. So ASEAN does have substantial deposits of certain critical minerals, such as bauxite in Vietnam and Indonesia, copper in Indonesia, in Indonesia, and rare earths in Myanmar and Vietnam. However, the these minerals vary, so not every type of nickel, for instance, can be used for developing batteries, and rare earths can also be used for green technologies. This shows ASEAN can play a significant role in developing critical mineral supply chain in ASEAN. Next slide, please. And there has been sustained investment by Japan in the critical minerals industry in ASEAN. And this initially started in 2010 following a cessation of export of rare earths from China to Japan following a conflict. And Japan responded by trying to develop rare earths deposits in Vietnam. And earlier this year, the Japanese government declared that it would subsidize half the cost of projects for Japanese companies. There are certain conditions to the subsidization. So around half the minerals that are extracted would need to be sold to Japanese companies. And in the case of supply emergencies, then a majority of minerals will need to be supplied to Japanese companies. And also this year, the Japanese company Sumitomo declared that it would replace refining of rare earths in China with Vietnam and Philippines. And currently, there are quite a few Japanese companies that are involved in the processing industry in ASEAN. So, for instance, Mitsubishi Materials is the majority owner of PT Smelting Refinery in Indonesia. And Sumitomo is also the major owner of refineries in the Philippines. And Huda owns about 10% of the rare earth refinery in Vietnam. Next slide, please. However, Japanese involvement and involvement of international partners is expected to increase in the coming years. And this is because ASEAN currently remains a major exporter of ores. So the extraction and export of ores is not an economically viable activity. It does not add long-term value to the country's economy, and it does not develop industries or employment. So for instance, the Philippines in 2022 extracted about 350,000 metric tons of nickel ores, but the capacity of refining in the country is 60,000. So there needs to be sustained investment in refining capabilities in all Southeast Asian countries. And this ASEAN is essentially growing as a manufacturing hub for electric vehicles and solar PVs. Malaysia and Vietnam being two of the largest solar PVs, and Thailand being the region's largest producer of electric vehicles. So there has been some policies undertaken by governments to reduce the export of ores. So Indonesia undertook quite a few bans, successive bans on the export of nickel. And this has had some level of success. So according to one study, between 2014 to 2020, around US $6.5 billion was invested in the refinery of nickel in Indonesia. It is also considering similar policies to attract investment in downstream activities. And in addition to these short-term policies, there's also long-term goals being pursued by ASEAN. So in the recently concluded ASEAN Summit, one of the agreements was on electric vehicle ecosystem development. So this is essentially an expression of the political will of ASEAN to develop EV ecosystems and supply chains within the region. And the South Korean group LG Energy actually has invested around 9 billion in the battery value chain in Indonesia. And this includes investment in mines, the nickel mines, as well as refinery and the actual manufacturing of the batteries themselves. So I guess there is a lot of area for technical cooperation between Japan and other international partners, and the ASEAN's goal of moving up the supply chain of critical minerals. Next slide, please. So lastly, critical mineral development is not only a technical issue, it very much is connected to the environment and society. And we have seen over the years that the extraction and processing of critical minerals has led to social and environmental harm. And in ASEAN has commissioned a number of studies, a number of frameworks on the sustainable development of critical minerals. And this is also an area where Japan can collaborate in identifying sustainable ways of extracting critical minerals that actually support local communities, the environment, and political stability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next one, I would like to invite Dr. Saowaruj Rattanakhamfu to share her insights. I think, yeah, she's still with us. Dr. Rattanakhamfu, I think the time is yours.
Yes, thank you, Novia. Thank you, Novia. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, but can we have the screen?
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, CSIS, for inviting me to join this session. And sorry that I can't join the meeting in Jakarta today. Hopefully that next time I will see you on site. Today, I would like to talk about supporting energy transition and a greener global value chain. First of all, I'd like to start with this picture. To support energy transition and a greener global value chain, it is essential to strike a balance between energy security, energy sustainability, and energy affordability. In order to answer the first question about what are the best strategies to solve the rising energy security problems, from my view, I think to address the rising energy securities, we should speed up the transition to clean, sustainable energy. But at the same time, we need to have careful planning to avoid significant economic disruptions. And how to do it? I think we should do the following. First, providing incentives to reduce energy demand while simultaneously boost clean energy supply. Secondly, increasing investment in clean energy solutions such as energy efficiency measures and renewable energy sources and utilization of clean fuel. Third one, adopting a mix of clean technologies, including solar and wind power, clean hydrogen, electric vehicles, and carbon capture in order to diversify the source. Fourth, keeping internal energy markets open for more competition. Last, implementing measures to support vulnerable consumers, such as providing financial assistance to their household income instead of directly cutting fuel tax, because tax cuts will waste money and make it harder to influence people to reduce fossil fuels. Unfortunately, many ASEAN countries, including Thailand, also provide fuel tax to people because of that is a part of popularity. The next question, how ASEAN and Japan cooperation could help in responding to the race to net zero. To prevent the most severe consequence of climate change and safeguard a livable planet, it is crucial to limit the global temperature increase to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrialization era. This goal set forth in the Paris Agreement, as we know, requires the world to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. But when we look at the figure on the right-hand side, we can see that at COP26, most ASEAN countries put net zero targets in policy documents, but not in law. For example, in the case of Thailand pledges to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050 and net zero by 2065. However, targets announced at COP26 agreements are not legally binding, as these targets are not in law. On the other hand, Japan is already put the document in law, so it means that those targets are legally binding. Moreover, when we look at Myanmar and Brunei, we can see that these countries did not submit documents, while Vietnam set net zero targets in political pledge. Then it means that more needs to be done to respond to the race to net zero. What should we do? First, international transfer of carbon credits to mobilize resources and reduce costs, to give countries and companies the space to smooth the low carbon transition and be able to achieve the goal of net zero emissions in the most effective way possible. An example of carbon credit agreement between ASEAN countries and Japan is JCM, that I will talk about this in detail later. Second, financing emission reduction in developing countries as the marginal cost of reducing emission in developing countries is relatively cheaper than in developed countries such as Japan. Examples include switching from fossil fuels to renewable energy, or enhancing or conserving carbon stock in ecosystems such as forests. Last, new technology development to capture carbon, which goes beyond conventional carbon sink, such as reforestation. Examples of carbon capture technologies include CCS and CCUS, as Professor Jun already mentioned about that. Next, I will to give example of cooperation in responding to the race to net zero. Thailand has currently reached a bilateral carbon credit agreement with Japan under Joint Crediting Mechanism, or JCM. The JCM facilitates the fusion of leading low carbon technologies, products, systems, services, and infrastructure, as well as implementation of mitigation actions in Thailand. Currently, there are 11 registered projects in Thailand under JCM. JCM projects span across different industries, including cement, steel, textile, semiconductor, tile, such as rooftop solar power system for supermarkets, energy saving for air conditioning in Thai industries, power generation by waste heat recovery in cement industry, installation of high efficiency air conditioning system in semiconductor industry, and reduction of greenhouse gas in textile industry. Overall, carbon credit agreements could bring technology transfer and revenue. As we can see that in Thailand, there are 5 JCM projects that already issue carbon credits of about 4,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, leading to investment of about almost 500 million Thai baht. The next question that we are so interested is about no one is left behind. How to ensure that all ASEAN state members progress at a sensible pace and that no one is left behind, especially countries like Myanmar or Brunei, that we see that they don't submit documents, or even in Thailand, we don't put that in law. So even we seem to have some progress, but for the private sector, they are not quite sure until we put that in law to make sure that it will be legally binding. So what should we do in order to ensure that all ASEAN state members progress at a sensible pace and no one is left behind? The following actions to be taken. First, enhance the availability of flexible and affordable clean and green systems to expand the range of solutions and increase the share of variable renewables. These can be achieved through the development of supportive policies, incentives, and regulations that encourage the adoption of clean energy technology. We know that now it is so difficult in order to do that, especially when the fuel price is high. Like in Thailand, Professor Jun already mentioned about that, but in the case of Thailand, I'm going to give example clearly that a coal-fired power plant was planned to shut down last year, but due to the Russia-Ukraine, so the that plant is postponed to the next few years. The second one that we can do to ensure that we will be at a sensible pace is providing financial and technical assistance to support countries, especially less developed countries, in their transition efforts. This assistance can help in building the necessary infrastructure, capacity, and expertise required for the deployment of clean energy solutions. In the case of Thailand, FDI, the Federation of Thai Industries, help SME in order to catch up with this progress. So I think for ASEAN countries, less developed countries like Myanmar and Laos should get more assistance. Last, invest in agricultural technologies and farming practices that can reduce emissions from livestock and fertilizer. And then transfer these technologies and practices to farmers, especially small farmers, along with the financial assistance for supporting them for transition. The last point that I want to mention is about the key strategies to build a secure, resilient, and sustainable energy and supply chain in the region. What should we do? We may consider these 7 following strategies. First, we should increase the share of renewable energy by prioritizing the expansion of renewable energy source with a particular focus on solar and wind power to diversify the energy mix and reduce reliance on fossil fuel This involves incentivizing renewable energy investment, fostering R&D, and implementing supportive policies and regulations to accelerate the deployment of renewable energy technologies. This is the problem in Thailand because the regulations are not consistent, so it deter and delay the progress. Second, enhance carbon sink creation by focusing on increasing the development and preservation of carbon sinks, such as forests, wetlands, and other natural ecosystems. Third, decrease dependence on fossil fuels by implementing measures to reduce the demand for fossil fuels and lower greenhouse gas emissions. In addition, we should encourage the adoption of EV, promote energy efficient transportation systems, and support the development of alternative fuels and infrastructure. In Thailand, the government tried to give subsidy in order to support the demand of EV, and it turns to be quite good in the sense that now the share of EV is significantly increased in the car market in Thailand. Fourth, we should promote energy conservation and efficiency by implementing energy-saving measures in buildings, industries, and households, adopting energy-efficient technologies and appliances, and promoting awareness and education about energy conservation. Fifth, foster international cooperation. We should collaborate with international partners, share best practice, and engage in knowledge transfer to leverage collective expertise and resources. Six, implement supportive policies and regulations. The government should establish clear and consistent policies, regulations, and incentives that support the development and deployment of clean energy technologies and provide financial incentives and regulatory framework that promote renewable energy investment and create a favorable market environment for clean energy adoption. At TDI, when we work on the research, what should be the incentives that the government provide to the private sector in order to shift to the transition? The survey shows that the financial incentive is the most important one because the private sector sees that this is kind of externality. So why the private sector has to pay? In that sense, the government has to help more. Last, we should mobilize investments in charging infrastructure with a focus on providing prioritized assistance to least developed countries and developing countries and harmonize international charging standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rattanakhamfu. The next one, I think we will have Dr. Kiki Verico. Do you also have any presentations?
Yeah, only one slide. This is the advantage become the last speaker, so I just conclude, and hopefully I conclude it correctly. My slide, please. Just a little correction. I'm no longer Deputy Director of the FM, so just a senior researcher. Okay, my name is Kiki Verico. Thank you for CSIS for having me. So I would like to take this because I'm not the expert of the energy transition, so emissions trading system, more on the GVCs. So I would like to see this from the GVCs or global value chains perspectives to see the energy transitions and the emissions system. Okay, let's start with the my slide first and last. Next slide, please. All right, so I have 5 points. You know, you can resist the invading army, but you cannot resist the idea that its time has come. It's Victor Hugo said in Al Gore 2017, that means this is the time to the transitions, and refer to you know, back in 1770. With the coal as a backbone of the economy, and until you know, fourth industrial revolution. Now we are entering the fifth industrial revolution. We have to the transformation has to meet the energy transitions. That's number one. And the energy transition sometimes also mentioned they use the term of energy transformations. What does it mean? It means that, let's say, in Southeast Asia, if you look at intra-FDI, majority in manufacturing. And if you look at manufacturing activities, you compare backward and forward participation, is more backward. What does it mean? It means Southeast Asia is a backbone, is a production base in the world. So as a production base in the world, it needs manufacturing, and in the manufacturing needs energy. And energy needs, cost-effective, or let's say less, cheap energy. And the cheap energy come to the brown energy. Energy transformations, energy transitions, meaning we move to, let's say, brown coal to green coal, or unrenewable to renewable, to green solar, to biomass, and so on, hydro, geothermal. It needs technology. More technology is more expensive, some extent. But that's the condition that we are facing. That's from economic transformations that need less expensive energy, and then transformation that increase the cost. And then number two, the world is now moving from output to input-led growth. So trade-led growth, investment-led growth, the GVCs. Now we are environment-led growth, which is endogenous growth factors. That means we are, changing our behavior. It's not only talking about the output, but the outcome. And economic growth, go into all the lives that if we don't go into that transformations, maybe already, because consumer increase the conscious and awareness of the environments. They don't want to buy a product. Government says not to buy a product, ban the cross-border, like what happens in Europe. If there's environment issue in your product, so that means if you adopt the energy, clean energy, helps your product to enter. If you so ignorance and then you say, oh, I don't want to go there, I just produce the product with the less cost of energy, you don't want to buy. So there's another scenario that we have to consider. If we commit with the global value chains to export our product, it's not only for developing issues but also developed countries issues. And then, for example, now the world is very happy entering the electric vehicles, right? And then the electric vehicles coming, injection combustion in hybrid battery. Now we just witnessed that Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, they produce one specific product, electric vehicles, which is less, efficient energy, and in using of battery and so on. So actually, in this kind of product, energy transition, but once we produce the product, it's also talking about the downstreams, is the emission itself. And the emissions, the government need to regulate, like carbon trading or hybrid mix between the two. So now we are entering this kind of era and world, which is we need to adjust in terms of global chains. What's the problem? Global value chains, meaning developed and developing country, connect intra-trade or trade or current account and capital account, which is investment, FDI. The problem is the level of the we are living in the second best situation. The level of the country difference, right? So let's say Japan as a home country of FDI and contribute majority in service sectors, because produce R&D, produce IPR and so on. Design the product, but the production itself is in the developing countries like Indonesia as a whole, and then the emissions is coming from the developing countries. So it is like sharing responsibility in the second best situations, because every country has a different response to the energy transition, has a different response to emissions system. So in the context of the global value chain, we are living in the economic basic countries. So this is like we have to consider and aware that this is sharing responsibility between developed and developing countries. Let me simple example. Indonesia is the third largest of coal producer in the world. And we are our surplus, the number one surplus in Indonesia coming from coal, GPO, and then iron and steel, but not articles of iron and steel, but iron and steel. And then Japan is major importer of coal. So one of the examples to talk about is how to reduce the coal. Maybe with the technology, with the help of Japan, we shift the technology from brown coal to, let's say, a green coal, more greener coal, like what Germany is now doing. So there's another example to put. So talking about the energy transitions. And last but not least, the mitigations we need to very careful, because when we leave the energy generators for coal, and we retired the coal, with the commitment of 29% of carbon in 30, with our own capacity or with the help of international for 41 to 43%. The right moment to find this is very important, because otherwise, we are, we're stranded asset, like in the coal generators, that we need to find the best solutions. What details on that are already explained by the experts before me. Thank you very much.
Dr. Kiki Verico is very insightful, I can say, from all of the speakers. So thank you. I think we still have some time for questions and answer session. I can open for some, I think. Show hand, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 questions now. Okay, 5. So you can all use the available microphones on the left and the right side of the room. So starting from the gentleman in red. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tupail Hussain. I come from Pakistan, and here in Indonesia, I'm doing PhD in economics and business in University of International. My question is open for all panel. So the question is, how can ASEAN and Japan collaborate to diversify their energy sources and reduce dependence on fossil fuels, while simultaneously addressing economic challenges and geopolitical conflicts? And what measures can be taken to promote inclusive economic growth with ASEAN and Japan, ensuring that all member states progress at a reasonable pace and that no one left is behind in the transition to a clean energy economy?
Please.
Hello, test. Okay, thank you. My name is Milha from Indonesian International University. I would like June or maybe Dr. Saowaruj respond to my question. As we know, carbon capture is one of proposed methods for reducing carbon emission in the atmosphere, as well as reducing the risk of climate change, which this become an advanced progress and make us less worried about environmental risks. However, the research from Mark Jacobson at Stanford University suggested carbon capture technologies can cause more harm than good, since maybe their operational use more fossil fuels, or are there any kind of material that are not environmental friendly? So what your thoughts or comments about this? Where carbon capture ideally should tackle a problem. In fact, it returned to increase more. Thank you.
Okay, please, the next one. Very succinct and also introduce.
Okay, my name is Sirina from Christian University of Indonesia. My question is open to all panelists, but I think we need to address that coal is actually not cheap. It is cheap just because the government of Indonesia decided to put a price cap on it. So my question is related to Japan and Indonesia or Asian in that regards. Is there any initiatives that would help Asia retiring coal, because Indonesia said that in early retirement we will need a huge sum amount of money? Is there any initiatives from Japan to help ease the pain, the burden of easing coal retirement? Also, another thing that I would like to address is in the household level. Is there any initiatives from the Japan towards Asian community to help implement solar panel within the household level, so that we can progress in the renewable energy? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have the third, I think? The lady with the, yes.
Hi, my name is Natasha Nababan from. I have two questions. I think the first would be for Kiki Verico. You mentioned about sharing responsibility, in doing the transition. What are the practical examples of this sharing, responsibility? I mean, practical sharing that you've seen in the market or amongst countries. And then the second question, I'm not quite sure, so I will address it to the panelists, because we see more and more, some panelists make remarks about collaboration among Asian countries, shifting from reducing emissions reducing export, and especially in the value chain of EV, to have more processing taking place here in the region. The question I have is, do you have any insight that when you do this, governments do this transition, is there any assessment that you're aware of how this policy may jive with international trades that may have restrictions on how this can transition? And I hope I make it clear. Okay.
I think we. Right. Thank you. So I think we have 4 questions, and let me start from Dr. Arima, and then I will go to Kiki to answer the specific questions, and then Dr. Rattanakhamfu, and the last one, but not least, is Dr. Huda.
Okay. In response to the first question, it is a very broad question, how to achieve the diversification of energy sources and how Japan and ASEAN could collaborate. And I think a starting point should be first to respect the different the economic circumstances and so energy endowment in each ASEAN countries. For example, in Indonesia, we have a potential for geothermal, but that is not the case for other countries. So maybe I think the first point is to have deep discussion about individual countries' energy potential and energy transition potentials. And as I said, pathways could be diverse across the regions. So I think how can I say, the discussion backed by robust, fact-finding is very much important, rather than imposing the straight jacket to all the countries. So that is a basic approach for Japanese government, I think. Then in response to the second question about the environmental impact of the CCUS, and yes, I know that there is certain criticism to CCUS groups, but without application of CCUS, that is 100% impossible to achieve carbon neutrality. That is quite, clear looking at the most recent IPCC 6 assessment report. It also says that deployment of CCUS is the only solution, of course not, but that is an integral, one of the important aspects, pillars for achieving carbon neutrality. Given that fossil fuel use will remain in many developing countries. So whether you like or not, CCUS is indispensable technology. Then the third question, coal is not cheap. Yes, coal is not cheap. In particular, in the last couple of months, because of the Ukraine war, the coal price has even increased. But still, the cost per the British thermal unit is cheaper than natural gas and fossil fuels. And then you said the government is providing subsidies for price cap. Yes, that issue needs to be addressed. And then last year, COP27 and COP26 as well, there was agreement of, phasing out of, unsustainable fossil fuel subsidies. Price cap for coal is clearly the fossil fuel subsidy. So first, we need to study how to phase out such a subsidy to the fossil fuels. Of course, that needs to be balanced with affordability problems for many countries. And household, how to say increase the penetration of solar power in the household. In Japan, we have been implementing tariff schemes for incentivizing installation of various renewable energy technologies. Rooftop solar was one of the focus. And also in the municipal government or local government, in particular, the most recent case is the Metropolitan Tokyo government. They have recently passed an ordinance to oblige the builder of the new housing to install photovoltaic on the rooftop. So that kind of, the policy intervention could be instrumental for having the wider penetration of photovoltaics. But one caveat is, that could increase the purchasing price of the house for the consumers. So you need to listen to the voice of the consumers. And finally, though it is not, how can I say, directly addressed to me, but a sharing responsibility between developed and developing country. And I think is, the developed country is in a position to provide financial assistance to developing countries for the pursuit of the low carbon future, because this is there is a famous common but differentiated responsibility and the UNFCCC. And this is a common challenges for all the countries, say developed or developing. But given that the climate change or global warming up to date has been caused by accumulated CO2 emissions, primarily by developed countries, squandering a lot of fossil fuel resources in the past. So therefore, a developed country should mobilize their financial assistance to developing countries. But one challenge for us under the current geopolitical situation is because of the, say, unforeseeable, say, the security, the global security or military security situation. Developed countries are increasing their military expenses. So potentially crowd out the financial support to developing countries. So I stop here. Thank you.
Can I have Dr. Verico to respond to the specific questions about sharing responsibility and follow up by the general one?
Okay, so let me put like this. When we are talking about the environment, economics is very clear. There are 4 reasons why the government has to take actions, right? One is imperfect competitions, asymmetric informations, public goods, and externalities. So it's government action. And we know internationally government actions like United Nations Framework Conventions for Climate Change, 26 Paris Agreement, and now at the regional level, ASEAN Initiative on Energy and so on. And at the end, we're living in the practical things. That's the importance of the transparency, right? Because at the end of the day, it depends on the national level, country level. And the country level is different. And if you are talking about GVC, as this topics talking about, Jubilee of the Asean-Japan, we are talking about GVC, then we are talking about the manufacturing that connect between, as I mentioned, trade and investment coming from the developed countries, invest in developing countries and produce a product. So what I mean by sharing responsibility, that there is no any single manufacturing product in the world that produced by one country, and there is no one country that produces from the finished product. So every manufacturing product in the world is produced by several countries, and the everything from this, but the productions in the developing countries, right? And the emission is the global issues. So it's very simple to say it is sharing responsibility. And what is the real example of sharing responsibility? If you read any text about suggestion for Indonesia, for instance, because Indonesia want to achieve 23,000 according to the Bappenas, 23,000 US dollar per capita. Now it's thousands, right? So 6 times. If you look at 20 years ago, that 20 years from now and 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Indonesia, 1,000 US dollar per capita. So increase 5 times in 20 years. So we need to increase 6 times the next 20 years. So 1.5 efforts. And a 1.5 effort, simply put, 1.5 energy that we need. And we have a plenty of coal and then, right? Absolutely none of us. But at the same time, we have to stop, right, to using that coal. And all the text, all the suggestions said Indonesia must invest in renewable energy, must invest in renewable energy. The question is, Indonesia is very willing to we are very committed with the COP26. But to invest in the renewable energy, it's not cheap, right? It's, of course, right? So we need help. And this help coming from through the line of the GVCs. So as investors invest in Indonesia, so let's produce green products. Let's produce green manufacturing. And in terms of that, first thing first that we need to talk is what energy that we need to use. We have to stop the coal. So we have another energy. Different developing countries with manufacturing as a backbone, and other countries different countries with non-manufacturing, because manufacturing need more energy than service sector, and manufacturing emit more emissions than other sectors. So when we are talking about the manufacturing and as a production network, as I mentioned, global value chain, that responsibility is a key word to me. So what is simply put, let's see, shifting from brown coal to green coal. What the contribution of the investors of the FDI, and then from unrenewable to renewable. So what is contributions? So this contribution can be through market from the market itself, can be from the government actions, or can be from the government plus regional plus like Japan, ASEAN, and so on. So I think that's my recommendation.
Thank you, Verico. Next one, can I have Dr. Rattanakhamfu to also comment on the question?
Okay, thank you. I want to answer the question about CCUS carbon capture. CCUS technologies could lead to deeper emissions cut, but still costly. Key benefits of CCUS are, say, CCUS can be retrofit to power and industrial plants and can tackle emissions in sectors with limited other options such as cement, steel, and chemicals manufacturing. Even though the importance of CCUS for achieving clean energy transitions, deployment has been slow. A number of factors explain the slow uptake of CCUS, but high cost is one of the most frequently cited. Say, cost of CCUS comprised of carbon capture, transportation, and storage costs. Look at the first one. Carbon capture costs, CCUS applications do not all have the same cost, but vary across industries. Say the carbon capture cost can vary greatly by CO2 source, ranging from about 15 to 25 US dollars per ton of carbon dioxide for ethanol production, or natural gas processing to about 40 to 120 US dollars per ton of carbon dioxide for cement production and power generation. So we can see that the cost of carbon capture are different across industries. The second cost is about transportation cost. The cost of onshore pipeline transport is in the range of about 2 to 14 US dollars per ton of carbon dioxide in the case of US. And the last cost is storage cost. More than half of onshore storage capacity is estimated to be available below about 10 US dollars per ton of carbon dioxide. So you can see that even CCUS technologies are beneficial, but the cost is the one that deter the utilization of CCUS technology. Thank you.
You, Dr. Rattanakhamfu. Dr. Huda, do you have any comments to make as well?
Sorry, the question from the audience regarding whether it's any international laws.
I'm sorry?
The question was regarding whether export bans breaks any international laws, was it?
I think close to that, yes.
Sorry, I'm not completely sure if that's what you were asking. Oh, okay. Great. The banning of ores didn't actually break any international law as far as WTO is concerned. What it did cause is it's increased the price of nickel. So for there to be contravention of WTO laws, there has to be a case where international trade is being restricted by some kind of unfair practices. So, for example, if importers were charged an exceptionally high tax to protect local industries, which perhaps is actually happening with the EU CBAM, the EU carbon moderation. This particular mechanism of increasing carbon price does contravene World Trade Organization laws. But as far as banning the export of ores, nickel ores, or perhaps in the future bauxite and copper ores from Indonesia, so far there has not been any proven case where it's shown to contravene WTO laws.
Thank you. I hope this answers from the all panelists answers the questions from the floor. I think we have a very fruitful discussion. Allow me to summarize important points that I think is necessary for us to write down and notes down. So the thing is that energy transition is something that we cannot avoid now and in the future as well. Whether we like it, whether we want it, it will be happening. So it's very important for the region, ASEAN and also Japan, to come up together to continue our international cooperation, to have planning and all, like Arima said, stepwise to avoid any significant economic disruptions that will be burdening towards the region. I think it will be a very important time for ASEAN and also Japan to continue our 50 years cooperation and to be extended into a more careful and also well-intended cooperation in the future that is needed to transform the region energy system and also responding to the future climate change challenges. Let me stop here and join me to thank all of the panelists here with us today. Apologies if there is any errors in the making through session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Session 2. We would like to give our thanks to Novia as the moderator and also our thanks to the speakers, Professor Jun Arima, Dr. Mirza Sadaqat Huda, Dr. Saowaruj Rattanakhamfu, and Dr. Kiki Verico. After this, we'll be moving on to our brief coffee break for 15 minutes. But before we move on, I would like to remind participants who have not filled out the online form for e-certificates may scan the QR code that will be displayed or fill out the link that is going to be displayed. Please fill out your names and emails correctly. E-certificates will be sent out based on the information collected through this form. If you have already submitted your information, you do not need to resubmit the form. We will meet you back here in 15 minutes, which is at 2:45 p.m. sharp for the start of the third session. Thank you.